Hello, and welcome to the beginning of this video demo series on setting up the virtual machine manager in Windows Server 2016. In Chapter 5, we dealt with Windows Hyper-V, Microsoft Hyper-V, which is in its desktop form. What we're going to do now is move from the desktop into the server, from the workstation into the data center. And there are a number of things you're going to need. One of them that it might help to have on hand your server book, if you still have it. If you don't still have it, that is okay. I can't pirate this for you. I can't just run off a whole bunch of pages. But if you can get to some of your old Moodle content, follow the directions there on for building a server VM in Workstation. One thing you need to be aware of now, actually several things you need to be aware of now. You're going to be building a domain controller. You're going to need a lot of hard drive space if you do this for yourself. In my particular case, I've got a terabyte hard drive here, which is probably where I'm going to put this VM, because apparently it wants a couple hundred gigs of hard drive space for itself. I suppose it could all not necessarily all be on the same virtual hard drive. One of the other things you're going to need eventually is, well, along the way, is a number of different tools that you'll download off the Microsoft website. So, one of the things you might want to do as you're building this thing, leave it in nat mode for a while, go out and get everything you need, and then flip it over into your sandbox, your LAN segment, shall we say. Because you're going to need Server 2016. If you still have the evaluation copy ISO from your server course, go ahead and use it. That's a great place to start. You're going to need both the 3.5 and 4.6 versions of the .NET framework. 4.6 will come automatic out of the box with Server 2016. 3.5 you'll need to go get. You'll need to get a SQL Server 2012 or 2014. You'll need the Windows Assessment and Development Kit for Windows 10, probably to help you deploy ostensibly the Win 10 systems you're likely to be deploying. You're going to need a fair amount of RAM, say at least 16 gigs. And now the minimum, looking at this, there's a table on page 239, table 6.1 that you should also be able to see in the book in Mind tab. Looking at those minimum capacity, minimum RAM, I would say 8 is a bare minimum here. We're not going to be doing a lot with it, I don't think. At least not initially. And if you find out that, hey, I need more RAM, you can always add more RAM. So what you're going to do, you're going to build your VMs. You're going to build Server 2016, go out on the net, grab some stuff. And this is another case where, as you're building your VM, you absolutely do not want to choose the help me option. So let me start talking. Let me actually go working on that. Get to work on it. What I'm planning on doing, because I already have my Win 10 box running Hyper-V. I did that with virtualization enabled, by the way, pass-through virtualization essentially. So that I could run a Hyper-V in an environment where it's not going to notice and get its wires crossed with VMware Workstation. So I've got VMware Workstation and VirtualBox out here in the real world, and my Hyper-V is virtually virtual, going down the rabbit hole, as it were. And anyway, it's in a domain that's hosted with this Server 19 DC domain controller. And my Win 10 box is getting its DHCP address from this one. So the instructions say to promote your server to a domain controller. I already have a domain controller. I will still follow the instructions, but it will be a subordinate 2016 domain controller in my 2019 domain. Anyway, so let's start that process, because there's some things we need to do right off the bat before we can get any of this rolling. So, of course, I'm going to make a new VM, new virtual machine. And I'm going to go with typical. Typical is always the right way to go. So I'm going to install the OS later. That will allow me to pick what I want. It is going to be Windows. It is going to be Server 16. I'm going to call this let's call this SRV 2K16 VMM. SysCTR, System Center, Virtual Machine Manager. Okay, that will tell me again what I'm doing. And now what I'm going to do now is browse this, because I want to put this on my external hard drive. I've got a lot, because I've got a whole bunch of server systems and a whole bunch of client systems, and I do have 2 hard drives to play with. As they're interacting with each other, that's a whole lot of read-write operations. So what I did to offload, to use 2 controllers instead of 1, I put a whole bunch of my server stuff on this hard drive over here, which is kind of off screen, but trust me, it's there. So I'm going to do there, VMs, there. I'm going to put it in VMs on this D drive, the new called new volume. Okay, and as you can see, there's a whole bunch of server stuff. Actually, in this case, both my client and my server are on the same box, but that's okay. If I really needed to get these things working differently, I could take my desktop platforms and move them back to the primary hard drive. So I'm going to do this next. And I'm going to say the server, I'm going to give it, okay, the minimum, the largest minimum hard drive number with the server, the console, the database, I'm going to say 50 gigs. I'm not going to use, I'm not going to do a thick provision right now. Next. Now, okay, let's customize the hardware some more, because we do not have enough RAM. We do not have nearly enough RAM. Running a server that's going to do anything of substance on 2 gigs of RAM is just ridiculous. So let's do 8. Okay, and another couple of things. So let's close. I did that because I want to change things as I go. So my SATA, I'm going to choose. I'm going to browse. I'm going to go to my ISOs. I like all the reason. One of the reasons I've got all this ISO directory on this drive here is so that it doesn't lose itself. And so I'm going to do my data center eval copy. Notice I've got my server 16, my Win 10 1809. If you're using a slightly newer Win 10 like 1909 or something from this year, that's fine too. Okay. Okay. It's natted. I'm going to leave it there. I could put it in this LAN segment, but I'm not going to do that. I want to leave it natted for now. And one of the other things I want to do is, let's see, processors. I'm going to go ahead right now and enable virtualization so that I don't have to do this later. Display is fine. Printer, I don't need that. Sound card, not important. USB, I'm going to leave it. Now, if you've got an older OS that can't handle the latest and greatest of USB, this is a server system. It's not really supposed to be working a lot from USB drives anyway, so you could probably crank that down if you needed to. There's no particular. I'm going to give this 2 cores and 2 processors, 1 core apiece. Okay. Yeah. I know that technically now some of the hardware requirements in the book are for physical hardware. I have a Core i7 under the hood here. I don't have 8 cores to throw at this thing. And trying to para-virtualize or virtualize more cores than I physically have is just not a good idea. Much less considering I've got other systems to support. So I'm going to leave it 2 and 1. We may discover performance issues later, but I'm going to leave it this way. Click OK and finish. Okay, here we go. Now, I'm actually going to stop this here because I don't believe I need to reiterate installing Windows Server 2016. If you've been in one of my other classes, you should have seen me do this any number of times. I believe I think I may have some videos. Actually, no, those are probably Linux videos. In any case, this should be a process you're well and truly familiar with. So we'll come back to this later. Thanks. Bye.